Here we have a React class component which is calling 3 functional components. At the moment there's no functionality in our app, so let's go ahead and add some functionality. The user will be able to add text to this list, and by clicking on one of the list items they will be able to cross it off as completed. Let's start by setting the state of our app. The state will consist of values that will change over time as the user interacts with the app. So we're going to have an input value, which is going to be the value set in this input field. We're going to have a to-dos array, which is going to be all the items that appear in the list. And we're going to have a completed indexes array, which is going to contain all the indexes of the items that have been completed by the user. Let's start writing some class methods that are going to deal with this functionality. We'll have handle click, which is going to deal with the user clicking on the button. Handle change, which is going to deal with the user's input inside the input field. And lastly, handle to do item click, which is going to deal with whenever the user clicks on an item in the list. Let's start by writing the handle change method. With the event that's passed into it, we can set the state. And now what we're going to do is pass that method into our input field functional component. So it will be able to access this method. And now if we go up to the input field component, we will be able to access that method in the props. So we can attach our onChange handler and pass it props.handleChange. Let's save app.js and open our Chrome DevTools. Let's go to the React tab down here. And we can see that in our state, we have completed indexes, the input value and the to-dos, all initialized as empty values. Let's test our onChange event by adding a value into this field. And we can see down here in our state that the input value field is changing. Next, we're going to write the handle click method. And what this method is going to do is add to the state to-dos array. So using this .setState, we can join all the existing to-dos with the input value of the input field and save that in the state. Now let's replace our example fields with some actual data that the user passes through in the input field. To do this, we're going to go down to our list and we're going to pass it to-dos, and it's going to equal this.state.todos. We then need to wire that up in our list functional component. So let's map over all of the to-dos that we get passed in this component and render out each to-do. So now we need to wire up the click method with the button. So let's pass in handle click equals this.handleClick. Now we can go up to our button component, and all we need to do is add the onClick and pass it props.handleClick. Let's save and refresh, and let's try to add a list item and click. And there we have our first list item, which is also represented in our state to-dos array. And we notice that the input value stays even after we've clicked the button. Really, we want to clear this field after this button's clicked. So why don't we pass in this state input value into the input field, and then if we go up to our input field and we can set its value to props.inputValue, and then after the button is clicked, we can set the state of the input value to go back to an empty string. This way, when we add a field to our list, the input field is going to go back to empty. So the remaining piece of functionality that we need to incorporate into our app is the ability for the user to denote that they've completed the task by clicking on it. So when they do click on it, the item is going to be crossed out. To accomplish this, we're going to use our handle to do item click method. That's going to take an index, and the index is going to denote the location of the list item that the user clicks on. So in our handle to do item click method, we're going to say if our completed indexes already have the index that we're passing it, then remove that index from the array. Otherwise, add the index to the array. So let's pass this handle to do item click method into our list. So now we can go up to our list component and we can attach our onClick event, which is going to refer to props.handle to do item click. Let's bind it, and we need to pass it an index. That index will be the array index, which we can use as the second argument of the callback in array.map. Let's save and refresh. Let's add an item to the list. Let's click on the item, and you can see down here that we have one item in our array, and that item is the index of the item that we clicked. And if I click it again, we have an empty array again because it's toggling the index. To verify that it's working for more than one item, let's add some gobbledygook, and we can verify it's working by the indexes that we can see in our completed index array, and they toggle on and off. We're still missing the functionality of showing the user which to-do items they've completed by crossing out the text when they click on them. So to incorporate that, we'll start by passing down completed indexes into our list component. And up in our list component, we can define list item style, which is going to take an index and it's going to return a style object depending on whether or not the index is in the completed indexes array. So let's hook that up to our list items, passing in the index that we get from the map function. Let's save and refresh. Let's add another test value. And this time when we click the item, we're going to get struck through text, and it will toggle off. So now we have the ability to add multiple items to our list, and we can toggle them on and off to denote that they're completed as we please.